Welcome to episode 4 of the Rowdy Hour. I am joined by one of my great friends in the motorsports community, Ash VANDELAY. Ash, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. Let them know what you're all about. Quick little introduction.
People. I'm Ash VANDELAY. I'm a motorsport content creator. I currently am signed with Oracle Red Bull Racing and do work with NASCAR, GT World Challenge America, and just talk about motorsports and stuff. So if you like things with four wheels and an engine, I might be your gal.
That is true. She is all about her motorsports. Like I said, she is with Red Bull. Um, One of the smartest people I know, at least in the industry, as far as when it comes to F1, being able to help new people learn about motorsports. I think that's one of your big things is really just helping people learn about motorsports who maybe don't know about it, want to get into it. I know that's one of your things that you're very good at in this industry.
I appreciate that, and it's just more to kind of I don't know, like, don't you want to see the sport grow if you're a fan? Like, why would you not want to just introduce people to it and help them, just figure it out? It could be complicated. I don't know everything. I know you've been in a few streams where I'm just like, I'm gonna Google it because I don't know the correct answer. So, we're all learning kind of together.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a few questions. First one obviously is, obviously you're a motorsports creator. How did you discover motorsports? Did you grow up? I know a lot of people, at least for me, discovering motorsports, I grew up in a, household that watched, it was NASCAR, whatever it was, watched motorsports. I grew up in the South. Did you discover it? Like, did you grow up in a household that watched motorsports, or did you discover it on your own later on in life?
Growing up, we didn't. It was until Robert Kubica joined Formula One because my parents are immigrated from Poland. My dad's like, "Hey, we got to watch this Polish guy." So, my dad discovered it on his own, and he made me watch it.
So you're Polish, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so yeah, okay. I was wondering about that. I remember you had mentioned it, and I didn't really know. So yeah, pretty much your dad was just like, "We're gonna watch this because it's a Polish guy. We're Polish. We gotta support the local."
Got to support.
I,
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like that's the way with some people, especially in motorsports. I feel like that's almost a common thing. Like if someone's like from where you're from or kind of like you, I think that's what it is about motorsports is they're being able to relate to it. Um, is I think that's what draws a lot of people into motorsports, and that's how they end up becoming a fan.
It's I've sometimes and sometimes no, right? In Formula One, you see that a lot, but I think that's a very like European, or not even just a non-American mindset. I shouldn't even say European. I think it's a non-American mindset to be like, "Hey, I'm going to root for this guy from this town." Because I talked about this a little bit on stream. Because when you're from, let's say, Poland, like my parents, your ethnicity is Polish, your nationality is Polish, you speak Polish, you're around other Polish people. Um, you're Polish Catholic, you're all these things, right? That has to do with being Polish. So if someone's Polish in a sport, you're like, we got to support our fellow Polish person. Except in the United States, we're a melting pot, right? Like I am Polish American. My nation, like everything's a little bit different here. We're all not in one identity, so it's really annoying when Formula One was like, "Oh, we're gonna put an American driver there, and hopefully they'll grab the Americans because he's just American, right?" When it's like, no, it's a little bit different here. We kind of do it more, I think, locale based. I would say, right? Like maybe the people from Fort Lauderdale were like, "Oh yeah, Logan Sargent, Miami," but for the fact that he had three home races in Vegas, and Miami and Austin just because he was American was like a little ridiculous. Like that's kind of not how this works.
Yeah, so does your dad still watch like Formula One or any motorsports now? Or did he kind of just
Yeah.
after the driver retired, he kind of just, left motorsports behind?
He won't watch all the races like I do, but he will definitely tune in, check the notes, what's going on. Um follow up with any things with me. But yeah, he's not watching it religiously anymore. But he'll follow what Robert Kubica is doing because he's in WEC and stuff.
Now, like you said earlier, you are part of the Oracle Red Bulls esports team, I guess you could say. What was that like? Obviously, you being approached by them, and then obviously being signed. What are you part of? Like, are you just signed on as a creator? Because I know they're mainly just have like a bunch of esports F1 drivers. Correct? Are you like the only content creator on the team, or there more than just you that has
It's
like
more
that
than just
creator
me.
role?
It's more than just me for sure, on the esports or sim racing side. So there's myself in the United States, it's Dirk Chocolate based in the United Kingdom, and Pondon who's based in Australia. And yeah, we kind of cover essentially three really big time zones for Formula One, and that's sports. But yeah, and they also have drivers not just for F1 sim racing, right? I think our driver was with ESL R1 for Rennsport. and we have a few drivers doing iRacing stuff and like Porsche Cup and things like that. So the esports team is racing in a lot of places.
So, what is that like being part of, an organization like that? Obviously, a very big name, and that has a lot of reach out there and put a lot of eyes on you. What's it like being a part of a team like that and just being around a lot of people, in the motorsports industry?
It's kind of cool that Red Bull is. I mean, you mentioned how the reach is, but it's not even Red Bull Racing, right? Once you're part of Red Bull Racing, you're part of Red Bull USA. So I've met a lot of people in Red Bull USA. I've met a lot of people in Red Bull Canada. I've recently trying to befriend Red Bull Poland, right? It just becomes this whole family of Red Bull affiliates under the Red Bull name, and it's been really, really fun. And yeah, I mean, I think with any Formula One team, there's just incredibly smart amount of people working there. And one of my biggest piece of advice is, oh, not biggest piece, one of my like top 10 is never be the smartest person in the room. So it's really great meeting people who work for Red Bull, who do this all the time, who know so much about their profession, about what's going on in the paddock, about Formula One and its inner workings, and just kind of talking to them and picking their brain and having that access. It's very, very cool.
So how did you get started becoming a content creator? Like, how did you discover this content
Mm.
creation thing? I'm always interested to hear everyone's story because I know everyone's story is different. I know a few of my friends started in the pandemic. I had my friend Mills on last week. He started on a website before Twitch was even around. And they told him they were selling the website and that if he wanted to keep on going, he needs to hop on this website called Twitch. And that's how he got started. So, how did you get your start in content creation?
Justin TV.
Yeah, it was like Justin TV or something, or I think it was even before Justin TV or something like that. Like he knew the owners and
That's
he was
crazy.
streaming on like an account for the website, and they were like, "Hey, if you want to keep on going, go over here and like change your name and all this stuff." So like he's been around for a very long time in the industry.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Mine is not as long. I've only been here. I'm actually going to celebrate my partner anniversary. I think next week. It's gonna be 3 years, and I started during the pandemic. Well, because of the pandemic, I think everyone's mental health took a huge dive towards the downward direction, for lack of better words. And I found communities and a way to socialize through Twitch. I started playing a lot of video games online. So I started playing Call of Duty because my brother and like our mutual friends would play. And that's kind of like how we would talk to each other, right? Like we instead of being on the phone, you'd play Call of Duty. And I also played a lot of Animal Crossing and a bunch of other games that I found communities through Twitch. And then you can talk to people on Twitch about the game you're playing, right? Like someone's playing it, people in the chat are playing it. You ask questions about how to unlock something, how to do this, blah, blah, blah. And it was like a great way to socialize. And when I was talking to my therapist about it, she's like, oh, you should start a community for someone maybe like motorsports wise. And I was like, I don't know. We'll talk about it. Maybe. I started streaming in, I guess November. I didn't realize that. And I think I played Portal first because that's the game I was most comfortable with because you have to learn how to talk, learn how to entertain, game at the same time, and all that stuff. So Portal was the one I was most comfortable with. And then 2021, I started doing the Formula One season. And then people just started asking me to cover more motorsports. So here I am.
Now you're big, and I know you've mentioned this before in your stream, and I've been there. Mentioned that you were really big into watching like COD streamers. Was there
Mm.
ever an interest to ever like possibly like stream COD and that be your thing, or was it always going to be motorsports for you?
I streamed a little bit of COD from time to time just to get more practice in the early beginning, but it was never going to be my thing because one, I'm not super good at it. Like we just do dumb shit when we play with me and my brother. It's just for fun. It's nothing that I think it's such a saturated market that's something that I'm going to bring something new to or something different to. I either have to be really terrible and really okay with it, or you just have to be really good, right? You always see these people who are either really good at sniping or no scopes or whatever their shtick is. I don't really have a shtick if I needed to do something in COD. So I was never going to do that.
Yeah, I mean that's I've seen you play COD with a wheel, and I will say that has been very entertaining watching you try to run around on a map with a steering wheel. That is pure entertainment. I don't care if you're getting no kills. That's just pure entertainment right there. I actually love that, honestly. I mean, you could have
That's fun.
possibly went down that avenue. You could have been like the person like who like plays a flute and gets like 18 kills. You could have been that, but with a steering wheel. So I mean, there could have been an avenue for you there. I feel like.
Yeah, and it could be like a once in a time stream or like something that's going to happen maybe like next month or whatever. We'll try to do that again, but it's really, really difficult actually to play COD on a wheel.
Yeah. So with that, like I said, being a creator in motorsports and you picking up that momentum, When did you really get like I guess your first? I know you've been to a lot of events. What was like the first event you got invited to, or like your first? I guess kind of I like to call them like a big break in content creation in motorsport.
Ooh, I'm so glad you asked this question. Because I need to talk about it more, or maybe I'll make a tweet about it. But we had a driver, Kevin Boehm, and his wife Shannon found my TikTok. And this was during F1 summer break. And for those of you who don't know, F1 takes a little bit of a break, like mandatory break, for about 3 to 4 weeks in August, between July and August. And for some reason, F1 fans lose their goddamn minds. They'll be like, oh my God, there's no other motorsports to watch. I don't know what to do. So I made a TikTok basically making fun of that. Um, so someone commented, Kevin Bowman and his wife Shannon found it, and they're like, "Hey, there's also a motorsport or like a series called GT World Challenge America. We're racing in Sebring in a couple weeks. We'd love to have you if you're interested." So I went to Sebring. GT World Challenge was super awesome, inviting me and giving me like the access and all the stuff like that. They gave me my first media credential, gave me my first media vest, and they're like, "Go." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, just go." And I was like, can I stream your race? Is that okay?" And I like started and I asked the question and I started immediately giving kind of a way out for them to say no. I was like, "Oh, it's okay if I can't stream the race because your TV rights, like blah blah." And they're like, You can absolutely stream. What are you talking about? Like we don't have to deal with TV rights. You can do whatever you want. Like if you want to stream from a corner of the racetrack and just watch all the cars, by all means, please go for it." And I thought that was the coolest thing. So yeah, Sebring was awesome, and then I went to Indianapolis and got the media credential again, and got to hang out with them and kind of learn about them, and that's how we've developed our relationship. So I think they were the first ones to just legitimize me, if that makes sense. Is that a word? Legitimatize? Whew.
Legitimize something like it. One of
Legit
what
anemone.
it would.
Anemone.
Who cares? Make up whatever word you want.
They made me reels. They took me from my Twitch stream to the racetrack, and I greatly appreciate that. And I've been working with them kind of ever since.
That's very cool. I remember the first like big moment, at least I seen for you when I first met you, was when you got to go to the first Miami race for F1, and
Mhm.
you were streaming from the track with some other creators. Just kind of talk about like what that experience was like, because was that your first Formula One race that you had been, I guess, taken out to? Right? Was that your first one that you've gotten taken out to by like a company? I think it was EA, right? Did they fly you out, or was it uh someone else that like took you guys out there? Because I know you were there with a bunch of other creators, if I'm not wrong.
Did you mean Vegas?
Or no, you went to Miami, right? The first Miami race they had?
Yeah, I went to Miami, and it was a few of the Red Bull creators. We didn't do any streaming though. So yeah, Miami was the first one with Red Bull. I've been to F1 races before, but like GA, I've been to Montreal, I've been to Austin before. But yeah, Miami was the first one that Red Bull took me out to, and they're like, "Oh yeah, here's this like we can give you some paddock access so you can do your interviews and things like that." So I get to interview Hannah Schmitz, who is a strategist on the F1 team, Fiona McEwen, who does the what's her official title? She works for ExxonMobil. She does like the fuel testing and stuff. Anyway, it was really cool to interview a lot of the folks there. And yeah, and get to hang out in Red Bull hospitality, which definitely changes your view of it because when you can sit in air conditioning during the Miami race while other people are baking in the sun, kind of definitely changes your opinion on how expensive tickets are or like how good the food is.
Yeah, so you did mention you did get to go to Vegas. What was that
Mm,
experience like being there? You know, obviously the first time they've been there.
yeah.
I know there were some issues that were going on, but like overall, did you enjoy your experience while you were there?
I did enjoy the race. Okay, so again, the ticket prices were just ridiculous. I got my ticket for free. We'll be very like candid about that. So that's like, oh, easy for me, right? I just show up. But if I were to pay, what was it, like 3 grand, whatever the insane amount of tickets prices were, I just don't think it was worth it at that point. It was a great track. It had the unlimited food or food available to you, the free soda and water. Ooh, that included in the ticket. I don't think the 3 grand is worth that much. I do appreciate that they did have some fan events. I don't think as many fan events as previous tracks or as Coda, or even Miami, surprisingly, believe it or not. And that might have been because we were in Vegas and the strip was right there. So it was very walkable. It was one of the easiest tracks I've been to besides Montreal. It might have been easier than Montreal, to be honest, because you just took the Vegas tram to one of the entrances and it was right there. So that saved you like 45 to an hour of walking and all the street closures and stuff. So overall, if they lowered the price, then I would say, hells yeah, this is the race to go to. Forget about Miami. Let Florida go underwater and we'll just hang out in Vegas.
Just let Florida go underwater.
Sorry, all Florida residents.
Yeah, you might. Oh, poor Florida people. So being a woman in motorsports and just in sports in general, I do. There's obviously a lot of times that women get unnecessary hate. And I don't like that at all. I think it's uncalled for. You have your weirdos out there, I guess you could say. Yeah, I'm gonna call them weirdos because you are weird if you hate on women in sports in any shape or form. Um, what do you think has been the biggest challenge for you, or just the biggest challenge trying to make a name for yourself being a woman just in sports or motorsports in general? What do you think the toughest challenge is? Obviously,
Gosh, just one challenge
you can name
being
as
a
many
woman in
challenges you
motorsport.
want. I
There's so many. How do I pick the worst one? Um, it's definitely a good old boys club, and you hear that thrown around a lot, but I don't think people ever kind of describe what it means to somebody. It just means these men will sit in a room and they'll be like, "Oh, you're in this room with me and you are a fellow man. Let me just give you this opportunity," right? They'll just grab other men and bring them up the ladder with them and make it very, very easy. Um, just because they know someone or they're just golfing together or they're in the men's restroom together and they're just like making jokes and cracking. They're like, let's bring you up here. And I wouldn't go to networking, just literally just because there are fellow men, they would just bring other men up with them. So it's been very frustrating to break through that because from what I've seen and what I've done, I think I would honestly have a lot more coverage or even it's hard to even say respect, just like coverage. Gosh, how do I say the word? Because I don't want to say followers because it's like the wrong way that I'm not going for. More backing maybe in what I do if I were a dude. Um, and it's interesting to say that because you see all these male creators and this has been like a case study in the Formula 1. There are many male creators who bank off the fact they don't know anything, which is fine. But then when women do the same thing, they get eviscerated for. And it's just like a back and forth thing constantly of these guys being mediocre in motorsports, which is a good old boys club, and they don't have to explain themselves. And it's just been like a constant battle of trying to prove yourself and then double prove yourself because it's one thing if I don't know something about motorsports, you ask me a NASCAR question or a Formula One technical question. But if I get it wrong, immediately it gets vilified. And it's just like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Why are you here? Or just dumb women don't know anything. It's just like, oh my God. It's like just double clicked on any mistake that I make because I'm a woman. And it's just been inherently frustrating to kind of deal with that. So it's always over preparing for certain things and certain events. It's always over analyzing certain things and certain things I say, or it's always hesitation on certain things I can say because it's like, oh, I don't want to come off wrong, and someone use that against me. Oh, excuse me, and so on and so forth. So it's been kind of it's been a battle, but there's been a lot of good folks in the paddock or in the media center who or other content creators who are kind of either going through the same thing as fellow women or just like men or allies who are just happy to have other folks come into the space and kind of shake it up a little bit and not even shake it up, just change it up because it's been so stagnant for so long.
Yeah, I know. I think her name is Elena's King, who is another motorsports creator on Twitter. She writes for a lot of blogs and stuff like that, and does a bunch of other stuff with F1, NASCAR. I seen her kind of talk about that one time that you were just talking about how when someone asks her a question, if she gets it wrong, compared to if a guy gets it wrong, she's going to be much more scrutinized than the other person. Or like if a guy gets the question wrong, he's kind of just like, "All right, you got that wrong." But if she was to get it wrong, she's going to be pretty much crucified and scrutinized twice as much as they are. And I feel like that's kind of unfair. I just feel like people are just looking for a reason to try to like discredit the work that y'all do. And I just think it's honestly at the end of the day, it's really dumb because at the end of the day, everyone, whatever you're in sports industry wise, we're all there because we love the sport, right? And we're just all
Yeah.
trying to grow the sport. So I've never understood that like unnecessary, I guess, for like bigger spotlight almost. Do you feel like there's maybe like a bigger spotlight and like more expectation on y'all sometimes as far as trying to, whether you're writing an article or making a video or asking questions, do you ever feel like there's a much bigger spotlight on you at all times than, a male in the sport?
I don't think it's the spotlight. A different metaphor I would use is that they set the bar low and not even the bar, right? Because the bar means you can move it, right? It's the whole point of the bar. They set the door closed and locked and low. and I can't open the door. Regardless of how well you do, it's not good enough. They refuse to open that door and let me through. So that's really what the issue is. It's less so that there's a spotlight and everyone's watching. I don't think that's what it is. It's more so that the expectations are so low. And then even if I surpass expectations, that's still not good enough. And it's just been insane.
Do you ever feel like that will get changed, like, ever? Do you feel like maybe there's been progress made in the past couple of years with more and more women getting put in, I guess, more powerful positions, higher up positions? You've seen I feel like I've seen a little bit of a trend lately of more women getting put in, better spots in the sports industries, as far as, being able to call games and stuff like that. Like in the NBA, for instance, Doris Burke is going to be able to call the NBA finals. One of the first, I think the first woman ever to be able to call the NBA finals. Do you
Mhm.
think that that trend's going to keep on going, and that maybe one day that door, or like you said, that door, that ceiling is, gonna get, I guess, like, be rid of or whatever, get rid of it?
I think it'll definitely get there, and I think it's just starting though. I don't. This might be new to some people. It's an interesting gender balance, and people listening to this are like, "Oh my god!" But this you can read about it, whether you agree with me or not. That sometimes when certain women make it through that threshold, they it turns then turns back they turn back around and like kick the ladder off the thing and don't let other women up or don't help other women because they feel like they owe it to the men who helped them get there. It's like a weird it's a weird societal thing that sometimes we go through trying to break in as women. So I definitely think it's starting now. Um and it will only improve, but motorsports is so far behind and it's inherently frustrating and a lot of different things, and I think you and I can talk about that, whether through NASCAR, and then we can go through all the other things. But it's definitely starting to get there finally. I think you're absolutely right that the change is coming.
With that, are there any, like, women in the sports or in motorsports that you've looked up to that have been kind of like an inspiration for you? Sometimes maybe when you're having a hard day, dealing with the criticism and stuff like that, that the unnecessary criticism I feel like women get in motorsports. Is there any women that you look up to or have been a big inspiration for you, and have been a, big motivation factor for you when trying to, you know, come up in through the motorsports ladder?
Yeah, there's quite a few. The big one is Lynn St. James, because I always quote what she what she says. She had an amazing TED talk once, and it's on YouTube if anyone wants to check it out. She is an incredible driver and is now a mentor to so many folks and does so many things to push women through motorsports and not push through, help us get into motorsports and kind of suss out what we're in for. Like maybe someone's coming in as an engineer. It turns out they're actually a really good tire changer, and she like understands how to kind of look at those skill sets of everyone, whether it's social media, maybe they should do PR, and vice versa. But she's had tons of great quotes while she was trying to become a driver or more popular driver and get those sponsorships, right? And she's like, I think she said she emailed Ford Motor Company, different people every single day because no is only no from that person on that day. And eventually Ford answered one of her emails or someone got her that sponsorship, and it worked out really, really well. And then she had a really good quote where there's that constant argument that women don't belong in racing or they shouldn't be in racing because women can't handle it physicality wise. And then Lynn St. James said that a car doesn't care if you're a man or a woman, and it only cares if it hits your braking, if you hit your braking markers and you accelerate. Like, it doesn't matter what gender you are. You just need to control the machine. So yeah, she's someone I definitely look up to because she's definitely been through a lot of stuff in a different time period where it was just, I think, extensively harder. So Lynn St. James is a big one.
That's always good to know. Yeah, I always like asking people, like, who inspired you in content creation, or, just whatever it may be in life, because everyone has different inspirations and whatever they're trying to accomplish in life, and it's always good to hear different point of views and, different perspectives from the people that they looked up to, because I feel like you're always getting, like, little, like, tidbits of motivation or learning something new. And it's always good to, like, understand people's perspectives of stuff, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, because I think it's very interesting, the perspective of, being a woman in sports, in motorsports especially, which, all sports I feel like is a, you know men dominated field, right, of work, but especially motorsports, and I feel like it's slowly, starting to get more women in it, which I absolutely love, because I feel like it's good for the sport, it's good for growth, being able to just see, so many people get in positions like that. especially like yourself. Like I said, I feel like I know I've seen you inspire a lot of people. I recently just saw you post something about one of your old bosses actually sent you a message about how I think it was their daughter, right? Like saw one of your videos and then found out that you used to work for them, and they were like their daughter was just freaking out. What was that like? You know, getting that like message and just like kind of validating, I guess, or like boosting up because I know you talked about it. It boosted your spirits. What was that like? Just getting something like that?
Those kind of messages mean so much to me. It's maybe you can definitely relate as a content creator, and if any other creators are watching, we get so bogged into our work and kind of really in the weeds, right? We're constantly judging ourselves through numbers and views, and that did well, or this email got rejected. I'm not getting this partnership. Someone else got that partnership. Like we're constantly being judged on a plethora of different criteria that the bar like. And the expectations are always moving. The algorithms are always changing. I don't know what the algorithm wants, right? So it's a nice kind of bring down to earth moment when someone goes, "Hey, I love this video," or "Hey, I really appreciate what you do." And you're like, and you kind of, when I'm so zoomed in, I have my blinders on. Comments like that, kind of take me out, and I'm like, I did that for that person. Someone is watching. Someone is caring. That did affect somebody, and that did help someone, make someone stay. Whatever the content was, if it taught them something, or a cool story, or a piece of advice I possibly gave. So comments like that really kind of bring me down to earth and be like, hey, you're making content for people who like your content. Um, and there's a TikTok that I saw from John Green, who's an author. He had a very popular book in 2012, The Fault in Our Stars. It became a movie, right? It was the best selling book in America for 2012. He and 98% of Americans still haven't read his book. You're never going to reach everyone. You're not making content for everyone. You're never going to appease everyone either. 99.999% of Americans will never know my content, and that's okay because I have that 0.1% who let me know that they do, and that kind of helps a lot.
Like I said, with that comment from his daughter, right? Is that like the coolest moment that you've had as far as like I guess like this is worth it through all the hardships like in consecration? Is that like kind of the most rewarding like thing you've ever seen? And like it kind of was like, okay, this is worth all the crap that I go through and the crap that I've been through, or has there like been another message you've got before, like comment or something that you saw that was, you know, higher than that?
They're messaging, and the fact that it's mostly fathers with daughters, which I really appreciate, messaging me, and they're like, "Hey, I have my 14-year-old. She just like watches your stream." And now she starts F1 sim racing with me because she didn't know she could do that. She just saw your stream and she's like, "Oh, like that makes sense. Like, of course, the girls can sim like that. That's obvious. You just needed someone to see that, and that means the world to me when I get those messages. So those are the coolest ones where it's like, oh, I just have my daughter watch your stream, or my daughter started taking interest in Formula One because you said something about engineering or being a doctor, and she's always wanted to be a doctor, and she didn't realize she can be one in motorsports. So yeah, definitely messages like that affect me the most. And I definitely cry. Just letting everyone know I'm a secret softie. Well, not a secret anymore, but it definitely affects me. And it means so much. So if anyone's listening, do me a favor and just message your favorite creator and just tell them thank you for creating the content that they do.
Yeah, I don't think viewers realize like I know they'll send the messages and like I feel like a lot of times from a viewer's perspective they don't feel like it maybe sometimes means a lot, but like what they don't realize is it actually means the world. Just one message from a viewer being like, "Hey, I love your content. I really appreciate it. You know, it helped me through a rough day." Like just one of those comments, it goes a mile with a creator because of all the negative ones that we get. I mean, one just the one positive comment can outweigh 100 or 200, 300 negative ones. And I just don't think viewers sometimes realize that. Like it really does go a super long way as far as the mentals that come with this.
It's just, I mean, if you think about not complaint forms, you think about like comment forums, because like Target or those companies or Starbucks or whomever always sends those surveys after you go into their store, or if you buy something, they're like, "Oh, can we talk about your shopping experience?" I think people are more likely to complain than compliment. So being in this industry and then being in the job that I do, I always tend to fill those out. Or I've emailed a bunch of managers at coffee shops many a time and been like, "Hey, your staff was great today," and they're like, "Oh, thank you so much." Like we usually don't get these emails because everyone's always bitching about something. No one ever says something nice. Um, so it's definitely something to remember. It's just leave a little kinder comment instead of the meaner ones that we tend to so quickly.
Now you mentioned that like you're not a full time creator, right? You still have a full daytime job, correct? What is
Heck
that
yeah.
what is that balance like, especially with motorsports, I guess being as demanding as it is? What is that balance like for you, trying to balance that?
I cringed at the word balance. There is none. I am not the model that anyone should be looking at for balance. Definitely taking a lot of PTO that some people weren't happy about. I might have gotten a talking to, but it is what it is, and it's yeah. You just got to do what you got to do. I don't know any other answer besides that, right? Like I take my work laptop with me on trips. I'll be working in the media center at various motorsports places, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, such and like that. So yeah, you just do the best you can, and you just got to pay the bills, right? Feed yourself. Remember that. Take care of your family. Take care of yourself. But you just gotta find a way to do what you want to do and do what you love. So it's not been a balance. It's been very unhealthy. I'm very tired all the time, but I think it's been worth it for sure.
Is there ever like a dream job position that you're wanting in motorsports, like where you could leave your full time job? Is that the end goal for you to be able to get a job in motorsports? Like whether it be like a create, like I don't is there like a role like on a team for like a creator? Like I don't like is that I don't know if that's a role or like what would be I guess what I'm trying to ask is what would be like your end goal in motorsports to be able to leave your like your daytime job? Like what position would you want like on a team to be able or like just on a team or yeah, on a team to be able to leave your full-time job, I guess you could say. Is that like a goal for you?
That's a good question. I don't think that's a goal I'm really working towards. I want to do what I do full time. What that will take though is probably a lot more streaming or just making more YouTube videos or just producing a lot more content at a higher rate. Quality content at a higher rate. So that would be more so maybe working with series individually because I want to work with all of them, even though that sounds kind of selfish. I don't want to just work for F1, for example. I'd love to, of course, like do what I do with Red Bull, but I'm also then allowed to do my work with GT World Challenge and do my work with NASCAR, kind of what I do now. But I'd love to add more motorsport portfolios, or I'd love to have more rain or more task from the series that I do currently work with. Um, so a little bit of everything, more like an independent contractor for my skill set.
Okay, yeah. I was just wondering, like, I know you've cracked jokes. Like, I seen you one time looking at like engineering jobs or something like that on Formula One, and like I seen you been like, "Oh, should I like I'm gonna apply?" Like, and I didn't know like if you were actually like joking or like serious. So I didn't know if you were like actually looking for like a spot on an actual team. Obviously not as like or maybe an engineer. I don't know. Do whatever you want, like you said earlier. Do shoot for the stars. Um, so I didn't know if you were looking for like an actual spot on a team or if you were kind of wanting to stick with what you're doing as far as like just covering motorsports as a whole and not being really restricted just to one individual like series in motorsport.
Yeah, definitely not being restricted. And I would love to lean more towards maybe commentating. Not serious commentating though. I like the color commentary I do on my Twitch stream and that SRO allows me to do for GT World Challenge America. Things like that. I'd love to host more events and just more talking because that's what I'm really good at. And yeah, just keep doing what I do, which is connecting people, educational videos, and supporting women in motorsports. So if there's ever a role like that, I'd love to, if someone can send me that. But otherwise, yeah, I'd love to work with all the series and not be pigeonholed.
Now with like I said, you've been to a lot of events. You've covered a lot of motorsports events, being a content creator, streaming stuff, making videos, interviewing people, turning that into content on other platforms. I've seen this recent. Well, this has been a recent trend in motorsports, and it really wasn't like this for a while. The other sports I feel like kind of adapted quicker than motorsports. I feel like in a way, as far as having inviting creators out, content creators at
Yeah.
least, and inviting them out to the track, having them cover things, make content and stuff like that, giving them media credentials. What do you think are more ways that motorsports can grow through using content creators and obviously like working with them? Like, what do you think are some areas they could use some work or some better things that they could do to try to utilize creators more to get the sport out to more eyes out there in the world?
That's a great question. And you definitely hit the nail on the head that motorsports is a little bit behind on that. So I think currently what motorsports series do well is a few of them do invite creators. However, the thing they don't do well once they do that is they don't let them make their content, if that makes sense. An example, MotoGP invited me out, but with the stipulation that one, I couldn't show any, like I couldn't record like them like riding by with their bikes and post that. Like I had to wait 30 minutes after it had happened or something. Like it couldn't be live recording, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I couldn't do any. I wasn't allowed to do supposedly driver interviews. I wasn't allowed to do a bunch of other stuff, and I was like, okay, then why are you bringing me here? What is the point of me being here if I can't do what I'm here, like what I do? Like, I am a content creator for sports, and I like this is what. So definitely invite content creators and let them kind of talk to them. Maybe I know it takes months of planning, so invite them out and be like, hey, what does your audience want to know, or what are you good at making that would make like your channel that makes sense for you? So for me, write educational videos. So can I show behind the scenes at the medical center? Can we get me a driver? We can talk about what it's like dealing with time zone changes from Vegas to Abu Dhabi for Formula One. Just this stuff that no one ever talks about for me personally. So definitely invite creators out and appeal to what their audiences are doing and what they're known for. And motorsport wise, I think inviting different kinds of creators. So not only just Formula One creators, which is really awesome, but also invite different kinds of motorsport. Because I think a rising tide raises all ships, and motorsports doesn't do that well. We don't work together, which is inherently frustrating.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing I have seen in motorsports is I feel like, and even sometimes it's like this with other creators. Like I'll see motorsports creators from like F1 and like NASCAR. Like sometimes I'll see arguments like, "Oh, F1's better, NASCAR's better," and I'm like sitting here and I'm like, "Why are we like?" I don't understand arguments like that in the motorsports industry. Like trying to argue which motorsport is better. I'm like, why don't we just try to grow motorsports as a whole? Because at the more motorsports grows means the more opportunities for everyone, right? Whether you're an F1, NASCAR, whatever it is, it's more opportunities for everyone, and you're making the sport open to more eyes, which brings in more opportunities, more people to see your content, no matter what it is. So I've never really understood that whole like people trying to do like the elitist thing, like comparing the sports. I'm like, why don't we just try to raise it all together? Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, everyone just wants motorsports to grow and just sports in general. So why are we trying to like tear down one sport and like have this one higher than the other? It doesn't make sense to me, especially content creators doing it because I'm like, what are you doing? You want all sports to grow because the more it grows, the more opportunities that come in, which means more opportunities for you, hopefully in the future, and more opportunities to be able to grow your brand and motorsport. I don't understand it sometimes at all.
Yeah, something that definitely helped me is so in the United States, we kind of we hmm, kind of have a car culture. And you're like, Ashley, so of course we have a car culture. And I was like, yeah, okay, maybe you and I think that because we're fucking in it. But then if you're looking at, if you go to the UK, like regardless of what kind of race it is, whether it's Formula One to like a ding dong sports car race that a bunch of neighbors put on together, people will attend. Like tickets will be near sold out. People are going to these tracks and supporting their local tracks. That would not happen here in the United States, where even for like big races for like IMSA and stuff like that, people do sell out NASCAR, which is huge, but not everything's going to be sold out here motorsport wise, right? So in the United States, motorsports is niche. And then if you go down even further motorsports to just Formula One, that was that was fine, but it was too niche. And I was like, I think I'm really gonna just not help myself here and do a disservice to what I can do. So I kind of backed out and did just the motorsport stuff. So that's why I kind of went into NASCAR, Formula One, IMSA, WEC, GT World Challenge America, WRC, MotoGP, and all these things. So I kind of have like a nice broad overview, and it is funny when you see people arguing, and then I'm like, no, you're both idiots. Like you don't realize that like, both of you are wrong because this is how they do it in other places. So it is definitely interesting to see some arguments. Some people say what's the best and what's not when they don't take into account the other motorsports that they can find what they're looking for and what they're complaining about.
Yeah, with you being, pretty much covering all motorsports, that's the one thing I do like about your Discord. Is you have a very large Discord. I feel like one of the larger ones for creators, and I feel like Discord is sometimes not utilized best by a lot of creators. I feel like some people that's kind of like an underrated thing to use to try to grow your community, kind of keep your community together and keep it growing and build that foundation and that core group that supports no matter what. Kind of go into like what's being your keys or just biggest tips for like kind of utilizing your Discord to be able to grow your community and keep them together.
Man, I'm also really a bad person to ask because I am way too personal in there. I definitely am creating like a weird parasocial non-boundary in there where I share too much or I'm in there too much of the time. I think I'm very lucky where my Discord. I don't think it's personally for me. I don't think it's too big yet. With the amount of people who participate, there are a lot of people in there, but the people who actively participate for me currently is a manageable number. I read majority of honestly, you can say like 99% of messages that are in the Discord. I always have the notifications on for every channel, so I know what's happening, what conversations are going on. So yeah, I definitely that's where I think I do my best work. Honestly, is in my Discord. I'm so glad you brought that up. whether it's just sharing puzzles or what's going on throughout the day. So kind of just letting people into the world of what's going on when I'm going on a trip with a brand or a series, just being like, hey, this is really cool what's happening in Vegas. This is really shitty. So kind of double clicking into the details that I'd like to share on my social media. I kind of share a lot more on my Discord where it kind of becomes almost like a diary of my day and my weekend.
But I think, like, I know you say you feel like maybe you're like too personal in there, but I feel like that's one of the things that is maybe makes you unique in my opinion, and I think why your community is so strong is because of that relationship that you share with your community. Because it really does feel like, a lot of times I feel like some communities with creators, it feels like, yeah, I watch this creator, but it feels like there's almost like a disconnect, almost like when you're talking to them. And it feels like it's a weird disconnect where it's like in your Discord, at least, like when I'm talking to you or anybody, it just feels like, hey, this is my friend that likes motorsports. We like cars. Let's talk about
Yeah.
this. Let's talk about that. And I think that's one of the things that's helped you get to the point in the level that you are. And what makes your content so good is, it's relatable. It doesn't feel like when I'm in your stream, I'm like Ash is this unattainable person that I cannot talk to at all. Like she's superstar, and if I ask her a question, she's gonna be like, "Who are you, peasant? Be gone with you! Like you're banished forever." Like you just someone can ask you a question, and normally you'll answer it, and you're really cool about it, and it's very relatable when I'm talking. It's just like I'm talking to a friend. Like I feel like sometimes when you try to talk to a creator, it's hard to get that connection.
God, I could never imagine doing that, talking to someone like that, or being like, "No, I'm not worth your time." There are definitely messages I've left unanswered just because I'm busy, or I have like a terrible ADHD like habit where I'm like, "Okay, oh, I see a message, read notification." Something else distracts me because I don't have the notification. That message no longer exists in my brain. I think I'm better at marking messages unread. I definitely tend to do that, but yeah, I will respond for sure. I think we're all in the same boat. If you think about all F1 content creators, if you think about most sports commentators, or excuse me, content creators, I think we all started, or most of us started, like we're just people. We're just super fans or big fans, or we have something to say and we decided to like go forth and do it. Anyone in my Discord or Motorsports Discord can just do the same fucking thing that we're doing here right now, or what I'm doing every single day. They just have to go do it. That's the only difference is that I did it and they haven't yet. So I'm just a normal person who just really likes motorsports.
I think yeah, we're just people who like talking to people. Honestly, like content creators. Like I feel like sometimes there's like this. People feel like, oh, this content creator, like, how do they do this? Like, how do they do that? And I've told my friends before, I'm like, content creation is very hard. Don't get me wrong at all. But like at the end of the day, you really are just like talking to people. At the end of the day, that's really what you are doing. I feel like majority of the time is you're just talking to people about whatever it is you enjoy, like whatever your niche is, right? So like if you're, Call of Duty content creator, just playing Call of Duty, talking about it, making, it's like you're playing Call of Duty with your homies almost. Like your friends, like you invited them over, except you
Exactly.
can't fit 400 people. Like if you have like 400 people watching you play COD, you can't fit 400 people into your like well, if you have a mansion, yeah, you can fit 400 people, but most normal people cannot fit 400 people into a house to watch them play Call of Duty or whatever it is. Like it's the same with you. You can't invite, like, I don't think you can fit 300 people in your room to watch F1 with you. If you can, that is, I need to know like the dimensions of that like room and how you manage that with all your equipment, because that is impressive.
No, we cannot fit 300 people. I can barely fit like two people in this room the way it's organized. But yeah, exactly. The way I look at stream, is each stream is like it's like a bar in your neighborhood or a place you like to hang out, a coffee shop, a library, of a specific genre that you like to like to hang out with like-minded people. And my bar has a certain set of rules, and I can kick you out if you don't follow it, and you just find another bar with people who like the way you talk about things or whatever, right? But you're able to pop around in different parts of the race or different parts of the week, right? And just like hang out with people in their little bar and just shoot the shit and talk. So I definitely like it when some people in my chat go on a different conversation or they're just having their own conversation. I'll be streaming something like a race and they'll be talking about an article they read, and I love that because that means like people have either found a friend here or they're making a connection here where it's like a normal, it's like a place you come hang out and talk to people, and not just about me because it never should be. It should be about everything that we're interested in, whether it's sim racing or motorsports together.
That is one thing I've seen about your chat, and I really like about your community is when you're doing like an F1 like sidecast or NASCAR side or whatever it is, right? Whatever you're doing, even when you're playing your puzzle games, which I think are amazing. is that like there's just like people are just talking in your chat, and like a lot of times it's not like almost a lot of times it really like the conversations going on have nothing to do with what you're doing. We are just like talking to each other, having conversations about whatever
Yeah,
it may be. And I really like that. And that's I think that to me is a sign of a really strong community and shows that you're doing something really good is when your community is all friends with each other, and it's not just like, okay, we're here to watch Ash do this and we're only here to talk to Ash and about what Ash is doing. No, we're here to talk to each other, like hang out, and everyone's friends. And I think that is a signs of a really strong community, and I don't think everyone can do that. It's very hard for a lot of people to be able to accomplish that, and you've done a very good job at that.
I appreciate that. Tiger Jet in the chat made it put a really good sentence that I love so much. It's a great metaphor. You said the table, everybody gets to eat. I love the vibe. No, that's really really awesome, and that's a great way to put it. I just provide an avenue of which these people can come together and talk and hang out and make comments or watch and whatnot. So it's been really cool to see it grow and other people kind of get adopted into it. I try to sell my Discord really, really, really hard. I think it's just like a great place because people say good morning. We have the New York Times crossword puzzle. If you're into motorsports, I think we kind of cover the general motorsport news of a lot of series. So it's been nice. It's been really a wholesome place.
Yeah, and it's not even just all about motorsports in your Discord either. Like you have
That's
like
very true.
you have a video games like section where people talk about what games they're playing or whatever like that. I mean, you have all sorts of stuff that I see conversations there half the time aren't even about racing. It's literally just about like the most random stuff ever. And like I'll just pop in the middle of the day and like I'll chime in and then like I'll be like, this is fun. And then like I'll vanish and come back and it'll be like another conversation, nothing to do with racing again. I'm like, this is interesting. I like this. It's just it's not the wild wild west, but it's just so cool to see like the different conversations and how it's not just restricted to racing, so like it's anybody is welcome in there.
We had an argument. And arguments this is like the biggest argument we've had in this Discord this year. And it's so funny that you say that. The argument was, for example, for the years 1801 to 1809, how do you refer to them? Is it because do you say what century is it? Do you say that decade? Is it fair? Like how do you like people were arguing literally semantics and linguistics about the year 1801 to 1809, and I was like, "This is so dumb. What are we doing?" And people were getting heated over this. This was the middle of the day, and it is by far probably one of the most heated discussions we've had in there about how we refer to a certain time period. But yeah, no, we'll go in our weeds, and we definitely have a great group of people there who know a lot too. We have people who work in motorsports in there. We have people of all different professions, and oh my gosh, you are so smart and good at explaining things to where I'm learning from my chat because someone will ask a question in the tech section or in the car section because they're trying to fix something. Um, and the way someone just explains something through a Discord, because if you don't know someone, you don't know their tone or where they're coming from. And then they're able to get through that person. I'm like, wow, what do they do well in this sentence that I need to learn from so I can portray that in my stream and go from there? So
So something I wanted to ask you is I like to ask every creator that comes on here, what was like the number one tip that you've gotten from another content creator, or the number one thing that you've learned through your content creation journey that you would give to someone else that is either they've been doing content creation for a long time or they're starting out brand new?
wow, I have quite a few. Everyone whip out your notebooks. So the first one,
Write
the
this down.
biggest one, which is gonna might surprise people when I say this out loud, is don't be an asshole, or more so, just be kind. And that is such like a interesting thing to say, because you don't have to be overly sweet to people. You don't have to be fake or anything, but you'd say hi, nice to meet you. My name is so and so. Have a nice day, or hold the door open for someone, say please and thank you. And those just common sense manners, I think, just go such a long way because gosh, so many industries are so small and everyone knows each other. Twitch is pretty small, believe it or not. I know a lot of creators have huge viewers or huge viewership, but it's honestly such a small community through what I've seen connected through my Call of Duty connections to my sim racing to here. It costs nothing to be just a normal, nice human being or just not being mean. And right, if you're not difficult to work with, companies will call you, will come back to you, right? I've sent thank you emails after working with companies, and I've sent or thank you texts and things like that, and stuff like that goes a long way where you're just doing those common sense nice things for people, and or thanking them for their time or thanking them for other stuff. So that's the biggest piece of advice because people will talk about it and be like, oh yeah, like so and so was really nice, they showed up to work on time. They did what we asked them of to, and they sent a really nice thank you email. We want to work with them again. So I'd be surprised how many creators I know of that have missed opportunities just because they were not nice. And it's wild. Something I recently got a piece of advice from someone was I was talking to them about like videos I was creating and ideas I had, and she was looking at me, she was listening, and then she stops and she goes, "But do you have time to play?" And I was like, "That is an interesting question." In the fact that I didn't start doing this to make money or be famous. I started doing this because I found it interesting and there was cool topics I wanted to talk about. And that kind of question took me out and I was like, do I get to play? Am I having fun? Am I doing something that's I'm not enjoying just because I think that's what people want to see or what a brand wants to see or how I get somewhere? Like I should be doing this for the content I want to make and what I want to show the world. So that was don't forget to play. Don't forget to have a good time and enjoy yourself and make sure you're doing this for yourself and for the right reasons.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Now you talking about brands, obviously, and like sending thank you and being like, thank you for this opportunity. What's been like your biggest keys besides that? Obviously, being able to continue to work with brands and getting more opportunities. Like I said, you work with Red Bull, and you've gotten some other cool opportunities as far as like being able to do commentary. I know you got to go to Indy and do some commentary this year. What has been like your biggest keys as far as like being able to continue those relationships and getting them to obviously want to come back and continue to work with you?
Oh, yeah, great question. So, continuing to work with me. So, for SRO, besides obviously do your job, do it well, think, I always come to them by the end of the year and I was like, hey, great year, blah, 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 all that nice stuff. She says, blah, blah, blah. And just kind of offer, like, hey, maybe for next year and kind of just plant that seed in their head for next year, like, why don't we try this? Here are some more ideas that I've had, and so on and so forth. So it's really just, I mean, it's up to them in the end, but you do the best to sell yourself by doing good work throughout the entire year and just being a good partner and easy to work with. And then at the end of the year, just coming up with more ideas and things that they can achieve with you. So it'd be a net positive for them to just bring you back.
And obviously, like you said, you've built a lot of connections in the motorsport industry, and I see a lot of people a lot of times always asking like, "How do I get these? How do I get the chance to like go here or get to do this, get to do that?" What is like your tip for like building connections in the motorsport industry? Because even I want to know this. Obviously, motorsports is not my main thing, but it's something that I've loved for a very long time. And obviously, the more friends you get to build in the more friends you get to have in any type of industry, the better, right? Like, what's a
Yeah.
tip you have just for building those relationships, getting to know people, networking? Like, what's been the biggest keys for you, obviously, besides your platform and being able to just reach out to people?
Sure. I think that's helped me a lot in the beginning is, and Devin Nash says this too. If you don't know who that is, definitely look him up on YouTube. He has an agency that like works with creators and such. However, going on, for example, Twitter, and let's say looking up a topic that you are well versed in or knowledgeable, and you just kind of leave an insightful thought or an insightful comment on a couple of different threads. Or if you see someone that you look up to, like a driver or a journalist or an engineer, and they're like tweeting stuff about the industry, you just leave your 2 cents there and you just have a nice discussion. I know nice can be a dichotomy on Twitter, but as respectful as you can and as succinctly as you can, just like have a good conversation with people and engage in their content. And don't expect to get something from them. You're genuinely listening to an expert or you're listening to someone or they're asking a question and you're genuinely answering because you're like, oh, I have something to say about this. Or I know about this or I have this thought too or I have this follow-up question I want to learn from them. So that has helped me a lot in getting these genuine connections or meeting people because I've interacted with them on some form of social media. It doesn't even have to be Twitter, right? It could be on Instagram. You can search hashtags of questions or topics you're really good at or know a lot about or really knowledgeable that people might have questions to. And yeah, you just answer them or engage with them.
Now you are very prepared when you do sidecast, especially for your F1 races. I know you have your index cards that you always keep handy with like little notes and stuff like that. Kind of just talk about what's the preparation that goes behind that, and like how long do you like how many days throughout the week do you spend on that, like or at least hours per day do you spend on preparing for the F1 race that weekend, or whatever sidecast you're going to do? Do you also put that preparation into your NASCAR sidecast as well, or how does that go about for you?
Yeah, great question. For NASCAR, I was a little more lackadaisical the past couple of times because I'm kind of newer to it. So I'm just kind of learning from the chat and learning from the streams. So it's less. because I don't know what to look for or what to Google or or I don't know what I'm looking for yet, statistics wise, or what's really grabbing my attention as a fan. So I'm just kind of was soaking it in the past couple of years. For the NASCAR Twitch stream that I do on their channel for the news stuff, oh my gosh, I go pretty far back as I can to get a lot of notes. So my producer will send me notes, and then I'll like kind of double click into his notes with my own stuff and like what I want to say here, points I want to make, comparisons to previous years. So there I will look up stats because he kind of outlined certain topics that they'd want to hit on the NASCAR Twitch channel, and I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about besides having watched said race. So I'll go into the history and stuff with the car, the team, the manufacturer, the car kind, and that'll take a couple of hours, right? Whether that is Sunday after the race, we'll take an hour and kind of dive in my thoughts and what's happened throughout the race weekend. And then in the morning, I'll kind of do about 3 hours of research with my own notes and going through either Reddit and seeing what kind of stats people have pulled up and what they're referencing. And I'll go through journalist tweets and things like that and see what they're doing well and seeing what their sources were and kind of diving into that. For F1, it's a little bit easier for me because honestly, because I don't go too deep. Gosh, this sounds maybe arrogant because I just been with F1 since 2006. Excuse me. I almost said 2006, and I was like, that's not how you say the year. Since 2006, and we do a pretty good job as a chat kind of aggregating everything and all the info. And I'm kind of used to digesting the live timing results. I kind of know the history of people's stuff and what they've done. And I've seen the patterns already emerge throughout the 17 years. Oh my gosh, that I've been watching Formula One. So that seems kind of a little less prep, but still like an hour or so, just making sure I have all the stats or something interesting and fun to talk about subject wise. And definitely before any stream, or you kind of just like look at the top trending news stories
All
and
right.
go from there.
Well, I love that. Yeah, I've always wondered like how your preparation goes because the first time I watched your F1 sidecast, I know you had like your index cards and stuff like that, and you had
Yeah.
a lot of information. And honestly, I was very blown away and very impressed because I was like,
Oh, thank you.
she is very prepared. Like she is ready. Like I feel like you're almost gonna like bring up like like during races sometimes if it's like maybe a little bit boring, they'll just bring up the most random stat of all time. Like Lewis Hamilton has gotten uh like two podiums on a Tuesday afternoon or so, like the most random stat ever that's not actually like a stat in the history books, but like they make it up just to kind of like bring it up. Like, yeah, Lewis Hamilton has finished here when he's eaten this before the race, like a ham sandwich or something like that. Just the most wild like stat of all time. Like, I feel like you're just almost gonna like you have one of those in the back if you need to like pull it out if people are getting bored of the race. Like, let me just pull out this random fun fact real quick.
Definitely a lot of fun facts. And I think, well, I mean, sure, I'm doing the side cast. So there's the Manning cast, right? Everyone knows about the Manning brothers doing their own NFL thing, which is great because I think they provide that commentary and that insight. The thing I think it's missing, and I don't know if they'll ever realize, is the chat itself. Um, and I just the chat provides that sometimes commentary to me, and then we'll talk about it. Someone will bring up that random stat and be like, "Oh, this is what I read that Lewis Hamilton only eats ham sandwiches on Tuesdays at 4:06, and because he does that, his car is 6 times faster, right?" And you're like, "Oh, that's so interesting. What about the ham sandwich makes it faster? Why is it 4:06?" And then the chat naturally kind of takes it from there. So I take my cues from chat. And about what facts they are interested in and what facts they engage with or things they want to know. Because, I mean, a lot of folks in the chat, right? I do want to be open to newer folks and coming in, and we have those chat command definitions where there when people ask questions. But we also have a lot of folks in chat who do know those things, and also have taken it upon themselves to answer questions in the chat, which I greatly appreciate. It like that's a community I definitely strive for and appreciate. So kind of just take my cues from what the chat is looking for.
Now you mentioned that you've been watching F1 for I think 17 years, right? You said.
Yeah, I think 2006 plus 17 is 2023. If I'm doing my math correctly, I'm just like carrying the one from the 13. It's like
Math is hard to do in my head. I am not good at math at all. I'm not a numbers guy. Um, so is F1 like the longest motorsport that you've watched? Is that like the one?
yes.
Okay, so it would be what comes after F1? Would it be NASCAR? The what is it? ISMA or I always get it wrong. I call it ISMA and I don't know why. I read it as
I love
ISMA
that.
every time. I'm like, yeah, ISMA. And I'm like, my friend will like because he watches it and he's like, it's not ISMA. And I'm like, I can't help it. I just my brain looks at it and it reads it as ISMA, and I know that's not what it is. I just know it's the cars that do the endurance races. All right, leave me alone.
You have the letters down, which I think is like 90% of it. It's just IMSA instead of IMSMA. I You just gotta switch the M and the S, and you're basically there.
Uh,
Easy peasy.
so is that the like second longest one you've watched, or what comes after F1?
I think WEC would come after Formula One, World Endurance Championship, and then IMSA pretty close second, and then so NASCAR I was always familiar with because I went to college in Florida and IMSA, um, but I didn't really start watching or following NASCAR really really closely till a couple years ago. So definitely, I think yeah, ISMA for sure. I mean
So,
WEC.
what would be your favorite motorsport moment ever? Like, if you can choose like one, like
Ever?
yeah, or you can give me your top three, top five. You know what? We can do top five if you want to. If one is too hard, I am perfectly fine with that. But if you had to like choose one, like someone's like, listen, you have to choose one moment out of everything you've ever seen in motorsports. What would it be? And it can be an off
Um,
track thing too. It doesn't have to be like an on track incident, like you know what I'm saying, like a wreck or something, or a fight between two drivers or a comment. Like it can be something a driver said in a press conference, or whatever it may be.
sure. I think probably. I'm trying to think. In 2006, pretty sure I remember that Robert Kubica got his first podium in Monza, which was pretty big, right? Because first, I mean, he's the only Polish guy, a Polish person to have raced in Formula One thus far. So that was pretty big when he got his first podium. And I think for moments would be probably the Iron Dames, which is the all-female team when they got their first FIA WEC win in Bahrain, which was pretty big. So these kind of like big pivotal moment points and like for my Polish heritage. So Robert Kubica getting that podium in 2006, and then as being a woman in women in motorsports, the Iron Dames kind of getting that first WEC win and then getting their first podium of 2023 in Portimao have been like these really big moments to me that meant a lot.
Now, going from like the best moment, what's the funniest moment you've seen in motorsport?
Oh my gosh, funniest moments. It's always all the animals that end up on track that people don't notice, whether it's a kangaroo in Bathurst, which is always really funny,
Wait, a
or like,
kangaroo? I have not. Wait,
yeah,
what? That is
yeah,
that
because
I have not
Bathurst is
heard
in
about that.
Australia.
I didn't.
So they'll have a kangaroo on track sometimes, which is really, really funny. And just hopping around. None of the animals that have passed away, that's not funny. But the animals they luckily like stop the race for, and they just gotta they're always looking confused and scared. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. We kind of bulldoze their home to make this racetrack. So understandably, this groundhog is not too happy of us being here.
The animals always getting on the track is like so weird to me. Like I'll just like, and especially when they zoom in on it, I'm like, how does the cameraman notice
Yeah.
that? Like I always think that I'm like, how does the cameraman like know like who spots it and like who's in his ear? Like you need to zoom. They're like camera 17. We need you to zoom in like on this little rabbit that's very tiny running across the track right now. Forget the race cars that are on the track actively going around it, however fast they're going. We need you to zoom in on this rabbit right now. This is the pivotal moment we need.
This is all we got. No, I love it. MotoGP does a really good job of the animals and stuff. I don't know, it's because of all the camera people that we have in motorsports just running around. But no, the animals are probably some of the best parts of motorsport, believe it or not.
Now, one more question I want to ask you is, like I said, obviously you play video games. What's your favorite video game ever that you ever
Portal.
played? Portal. Portal is it? Easy. That was
Uh,
quick. I was not expecting that.
Portal done. Portal, I love. I love Portal. It's like a puzzle game. It's not too stressful if you're not into like shooters or pew pew. It's fun, and it's nice to get through. So it has a little bit of everything. Another game I do really love, or game series franchise, I should say, is the newer God of War games, especially like Ragnarok and things like that. And the reason I love God of War games is one, they do a really good job as someone who, sure, sometimes I'll play on like medium or hard mode, like or like normal. But I do love sometimes I just want to hear the story with light pew pews or light fighting. And I appreciate God of War because you still get the full story, and it's definitely not too dumbed down where you're like, oh my god, this is so easy, like this feels like a joke. It's definitely a lot more balanced, especially when you put it on easy mode. And just God of War has beautiful storytelling and beautiful graphics. So the God of War games are definitely some of my favorite, more recent favorites too. Portal I've just been playing since it's been made, or and it's been with me for a long time. And I kind of just play it like a couple times a year whenever I'm bored, just fly through it.
Now you obviously talked about how you do the NASCAR podcast. Or it's kind of like similar thing like this, right? You bring on guests a lot of times, whether it be drivers or people like Kim Kuhn, who is a NASCAR pit reporter. And you'll bring them on and kind of talk to them. Uh, do you think F1 maybe would ever potentially think about doing that with a content creator? Because I feel like that would be something cool that they could kind of do to try to have more of an interaction with the common fan.
Ooh. Oh, Washington Wizards and Orlando Magic have tipped off. I'm in DC for everyone wondering why I read the sports spot and got excited. I was like, oh, I didn't know that game was happening. Go Wizards. Though I'm from New York City. Would F1? No. Would teams possibly do it? Yes. I don't think F1 would do it. I don't know why. I think they like to have it's too I don't think it's something they can control very well. Does that make sense? Too many things can go wrong or just not the way they want it to. They're very well oiled. They want you to say what they want you to say, machine. And they would definitely put probably maybe like a Crofty or just someone they've put through their media machine um, at it to the point where it would just be like another F1 TV broadcast. And they have that already. So why would they go on Twitch?
So
And
do
the whole
you
point of Twitch is the chat interaction. And they definitely wouldn't do that either.
so do you feel like NASCAR is probably like the least strict as far as like when they have creators make content and like they don't really control what content you make? It's kind of like do what you're best at doing your content. You like the other sports are kind of not controlling, but they kind of have when they bring you there, they kind of have their guidelines of kind of what the content they want you to make more of than like what you or what you're best at doing.
Encountered that through all of it. It's been more like restrictions, right? It's been hard to get certain access to certain places to do my content. Like I would love just to have like a one-on-one video for all the cars, right? And I think I'm working with this on GT World Challenge for next year, hopefully, that I'd love to be in front of an F1 car, in front of a cup car for NASCAR, and just have the lead engineer of the team or whomsoever they can get to me to literally walk me around this car and point out parts or be like, this rear wing is super important. This is what DRS is. And like, sure, I know what it is, but this isn't for me. I think it'd be cool content to just realize how so many things work together on a car, and it would just it'd be a good place to start from scratch from for a lot of people about what parts are on a car and what makes the car racy, So things like that, which I don't think F1 would ever do. It would have to be again. I think it'd be more to the teams. NASCAR is definitely more willing to listen. It's a lot of these teams on all the motorsports series are really young. The digital media teams are super young, full of ideas. It's wherever they're going next, and I don't know to what level that they're not getting the permission or feedback or allowance to do things more freely. And I don't know. I don't know what it is that's stopping people.
Like so, like it's like whoever they're giving the ideas to, like the higher ups, that kind of like
No, because I also want to blame their direct boss. I don't know if they're doing something with their boss and then like bringing it even higher up. I definitely had many conversations or been on many email chains where someone's asking, "Well, what's Twitch?" or like, "What's the point?" And I was like, "Oh my god, how do we keep having the same conversation? I thought we went through this with the other guy." So there's definitely still some disconnect between content creation or content creators and their usability and the way we can kind of skirt around the rules, so to say, and how we can be more useful in weaving threads through stories, through a team story, and kind of cover all aspects of it and be the narrator of that for you, and teams kind of applying that or series kind of applying that.
yeah. So I want to ask you this, and then this is my last question I want to ask you, and I feel like this is very interesting. If you could be a race car driver, which series would you race in? You can race in eight.
GR86 Cup.
That was quick. She has been waiting her entire like life for this question right here. Like she's been waiting. Like I'm waiting for the day someone asks me if I can race in any series ever, and I can be a race car driver. What is it?
It's a question that we discuss a lot in motorsports content creation world. So yeah, definitely GR86 Cup because they're just like fun zippy cars. You get to go to a lot of places, believe it or not. There's a lot of 86 Cup racing around the world. So just pop around to different series around the world, or just stay here in the United States with SRO and hang out. And Toyota, I think Toyota is a great company, especially Toyota Gazoo Racing would be fun to have the backing of or just be part of that team, or that kind of entity because they do so much for so many motorsports and drivers. I think that should be sick. They're so big, and I don't think they showcase or flex their power enough just yet. So I'd love to see them do that more.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Toyota has like they have so many drivers like for so much stuff, and like they just have like so much young talent too. Like
Yeah.
I feel like every day I wake up, it's like Toyota has signed this young driver who is like 16 and has won this many races, and I'm just sitting there like at 16 I was learning how to do math in math class, and this kid is out here just winning races and is now signed with Toyota for a development deal. Wow. Like I'm just sitting there like this is crazy. It feels like they almost always have like an endless supply of talent for like everything. It just like it's like, oh, this person's left Toyota, whether in anything, right? Whether it's NASCAR or anything. And it's like, oh, here's a new driver, like just put them right
Ready
in.
to go.
Yeah,
Right.
ready
Yeah.
to go. It's just like it's like a conveyor belt. And like they're just like, oh, well, development ended on this one. Oh, but here's the brand new one that just shipped in. Let's go. Like it's crazy the amount of just star power that Toyota has, honestly.
Yeah, Toyota, and they definitely know what they're doing. So, something to do with them, whether it's the 86. I just think it's the fun zippy little car. I would be honored.
I would do IndyCar. I think I would do IndyCar. Like if I could get rid of my like fear. Like if I could like
Wait, what's your fear?
I mean I'm going like 200 miles per hour open like little open cockpit. I would be terrified. Like to do IndyCar, I would be terrified to go that fast like in an open wheel. If I could just get rid of my fear of being in that car, I would do IndyCar. I'm just like I would
You'd be surprised how quick you'd get over that fear.
is that like I feel like I would just be like like I don't know. There's something about like just going like I'd be terrified to go at the Indy. I feel like Indy is where I would be like I think that's where my fear would be like next level because you just have to full send it. Like hearing drivers be like, yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to go for it. And in my head, I'm like, I know that, but I'm like, I'd be terrified because like if you let off just a little bit, I feel like you're gonna be yelled at like over the radio, and they're gonna be like, "What are you doing? Like, why did you just lift there? That's too tense. Now you're not gonna make the Indy 500." Like that, just like my brain was just going a million like miles per second. Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to go in this turn. I'm gonna have to fully commit, and I'm just gonna have to hope that it sticks. And if it doesn't stick and I hit the wall, oh well.
See, and think about it. That's the mentality they probably have. Some of them are like, "Oh, if I lift here, I'm going to lose 2/10. I'm not going to make the Indy 500. I'm going to lose my home, my house, and my career." So yeah, not only is motorsport like super physical, but think about all the mentality you have to yeet your body through a metal 2-ton vehicle or whatever car you're using, and being okay with it and not crashing.
You just have to be okay with it. You know what? In content creation, you just have to go for it and just put your best foot forward and just yeet. Just okay, don't yeet, but like yeet with thought. Like
You
that's
thought
yeah, yeet with thought. You know what? That's my new motto in
effortless.
life. That's my new motto. I'm going to put that. That is my new quote. Yeet with thought in life. That's what you should do. If someone asks me what they should do, yeet with thought. Um, but Ash, I want to thank you so much for allowing me your time. I know you are very busy, obviously with everything that you have going on. But honestly, I love that you have a lot going on because it shows that your hard work is paying off. So I love that for you. I'm very glad that I met you. I literally think I discovered you through the EA creator thing, Twitch Sports. So I'm very glad that I got to discover you through that. It's very cool seeing all the cool things that you get to do. And it's also just cool to have a friend in motorsport. To talk whatever about with. So, anything you want to say to the
Yeah.
people before we sign off?
No, just thank you for being part of the community and making it cool and rad and sharing your NASCAR knowledge and motorsport knowledge because there's things I don't know either. So I'm glad that you're there to assist and be in chat and hang out with peeps. I mean, the community makes the community, for lack of better words. So thank you.
I see. I told you, chat. See, I am smart about some things. See, you doubt me, but I am smart. Don't doubt me. I have a little bit of knowledge, not a lot, but sometimes the wheels turn and they produce some rubber. Or I don't even know where I was going with that.
But they still got to give you shit because that's what chat does is give the streamer. They won't let the
Oh, they
streamer
do.
leave in
Oh,
peace.
don't worry. They do. They always will. They will never give me any props, no matter what I do. So before we sign off, I just want to say to everyone watching this, you're beautiful, you're one of a kind. Keep on doing whatever you're doing in life. I know it gets hard sometimes, but keep your head up no matter what challenges life may bring you. There is light at the other end of the tunnel, so you just got to keep on going. You'll get to the light eventually one day. And remember, the good times and the good memories will always outweigh the bad ones. For every bad thing that goes on, there's always going to be a good one to come along the way and kind of balance it out. Just keep on going, and we will see you on the next episode of the Rowdy Hour. Peace.